Hey everyone, it's Vashti Lavinia. So, the previous video has been posted, so we're going to continue on from that. So this is going to be the first video that I'm going to do, talking about a first spiritual experience. Now, this one was half mine and half my mother's. So this actually occurred when I was in her belly when she was pregnant with me. And I was born in the late 80s. And back then, not much was spoke about, if you know what I mean. So the way that my mum retells it is that she was at my aunt's house, my dad's half sister, and I've got a lot of first cousins who are very, very similar in age. Literally, like, one of my cousins is a week apart from me. I've got a massive family, and so she was at my aunt's house, and my aunt's house was always quite haunted anyway, and it wasn't very often she was home, because my dad's sister, she was always traveling. Whether it was on a boat, whether it was in a trailer. Her husband even converted horse boxes at one point. Anyway, so on one of our occasions, they were actually back home. And I think part of the reason they didn't like the house was because of the activity in it. Anyway, so the area that she lived in was just very much just on the outskirts of Bletchley. Okay. But it was kind of like between Bletchley, Water Eaton and the Lakes Estate. It was that kind of general area, but more Bletchley area. And yeah, so my mum was there, and I think she was just there, just visiting whilst my dad was at work. And she went to go in the garden, and as you go into the garden, there was a huge drop. I think it must have been about 1.5 feet between the back door and the ground. So my mum, being a complete klutz like me, she fell out. She fell over the door, and she fell onto her stomach, me inside. And I think she said she was about 6-7 months pregnant at this point, and she literally fell onto her stomach. And the way that she describes it is that she fell in slow motion, but she bounced off the floor. And I was like, what do you mean you bounced off the floor? And she goes, it was as if angels had put a pillow underneath my belly to stop you from being hurt. And she goes, that's the only way I can describe it. And then the next thing you know, she's kind of bounced onto her back. And she goes, at no point did the belly touch the floor. She goes, it's as if angels had put a pillow underneath my belly to stop anything from happening to you. And then she kind of like just managed to find her way on her back. She said the belly did not touch the floor in the slightest. And she goes, to this day, I will never forget it. And I think with my mum, I think that was one of her first points of deciding to look into mediumship. I mean, she always had the ability, we all do. But with my mum, she was always a bit more reluctant. Which I think was mainly down to my nan's attitude, to be fair. But yeah, I think that was the first catalyst for her to start looking into things and going down that path. I mean, she'd been down a semi-spiritual path before. She went down the witchcraft route, but then she decided it wasn't for her. And then she later became a very powerful Reiki healer, and spiritual healer, and a trance medium. So I feel like with my mum, this was the first thing that led her down that path. But the way that she views it is, the angels didn't want anything to happen to you. Which is always nice to hear, isn't it? So that's going to be my first video. Not terribly in depth, because obviously I was in her belly at the time. But yeah, so that's how the beginning started.